As I gazed out the window of the air-coach bus leaving Dublin Airport, the lush green fields of County Dublin rolled by, punctuated by the occasional castle ruin or stately manor house. Ireland's natural beauty is undeniable, but it was the country's economic revival that had drawn me here. A little over a decade ago, the Emerald Isle was in deep fiscal crisis, a casualty of the Great Global Recession. The so-called Celtic Tiger economic boom of the 1990s and early 2000s had gone bust, fueled by a property bubble and heedless bank lending. When the music stopped in 2008, Ireland was left with bank bailouts, soaring deficits, and a severe recession that shrank GDP by almost 10%. By 2011, the previously impeccable Irish credit rating had been downgraded to junk status by the major agencies like Moody's and S&P. The country was forced to take a €67.5 billion bailout from the European Union, European Central Bank and International Monetary Fund, subjected to harsh austerity measures and external oversight in return. It was an ignominious fall from grace for what had been one of Europe's biggest economic success stories. Yet last month, in an announcement that went somewhat under the radar, Moody's put a positive outlook on Ireland's credit rating, predicting further declines in the nation's debt burden and improvements in fiscal affordability. The country that was once the sick man of Europe is now viewed by the rating agencies as a model of prudent economic governance and sustainable finances. How did such a dramatic turnaround take place? As with most socioeconomic phenomena, there are multiple overlapping causes. But at the core has been a national rededication to fiscal responsibility, pro-growth policies, and future-oriented investing, a reversion to the virtues that fueled the Celtic Tiger decades before. We took a hard look in the mirror after the crisis. Finance Minister Michael McGrath told me over a cup of beef and Guinness stew in Dublin's Jam Art Factory. There was a realization that we had become reckless, taken our eye off the ball of competitiveness and sustainable public finances. We had to get back to the disciplines that had served us so well. Those disciplines included efforts by successive governments to rein in spending, raise taxes, regulate the banking sector more stringently, and restructure public-private debts. It wasn't easy medicine, but the Irish people accepted the necessity, helping put the country on a path towards a primary budget surplus by 2018. Perhaps more importantly, the government in Dublin got serious about boosting national competitiveness and attracting investment, building on the country's existing advantages as an English-speaking, educated workforce with a business-friendly regulatory and tax environment. Investing heavily in STEM education, research and development, telecommunications and transport infrastructure turned Ireland into a regional hub for tech, finance and pharmaceutical giants like Apple, Google, Facebook, Pfizer, and more. The result has been a stream of high-value job creation and corporate tax revenues that now account for over 20% of the total fiscal intake. That bounty has allowed Ireland to become one of the only European nations currently running a budget surplus and rapidly paying down public debt. It has also enabled the creation of sovereign wealth funds to insulate the nation from future economic shocks. We learned our lesson the hard way. You have to save for a rainy day, Minister McGrath said, mopping up the last of his Guinness reduction sauce with a piece of brown bread. Our new sovereign funds will act as shock absorbers and allow us to keep investing countercyclically when the next downturn inevitably comes. Of course, Ireland still faces challenges, including overdependence on corporate tax receipts, a housing affordability crisis, and the need to transition from an economy reliant on foreign multinationals. But the overall direction is undeniably positive, a dramatic reversal from the dark days of 2010 to 2012. As I wandered the grounds of Trinity College in Dublin later that day, watching students flow in and out of those hallowed halls, I reflected on the lessons of Ireland's experience, both its rise, fall, and subsequent redemption. In an era of persistent public deficits, mounting debt burdens and institutional sclerosis across much of the developed world, the Irish example offers a glimpse of renewal. Nations can rebound from even the direst fiscal precipices, but only through embracing economic first principles, spending prudence, growth promotion, investment in productive capabilities and human capital, sustainable revenue streams. It takes tremendous political courage to rein in profligacy and impose hard choices on a populace. But the alternative is a steady rot of institutional decay, uncompetitiveness, and ever higher debt liabilities being foisted on future generations. The path of minimal resistance is ultimately the road to societal ruin. The Irish knew that path all too well a decade ago and finally found the will to change course. They cleared the macroeconomic detritus of the crisis, got serious about boosting national competitiveness, and re-established fiscal responsibility. Now consistently running budget surpluses, rapidly deleveraging public debts, and socking away rainy day funds while continuing to invest for the future, Ireland has become a shining example of policy reform done right. It's a fiscal redemption tale that carries highly salient lessons for over-indebted nations across Europe, North America, and beyond. A story of how even societies that find themselves in the direst fiscal straits can rediscover solvency and impose discipline on themselves, if only their leaders and citizens can rediscover economic adulthood and eschew the narcotic of debt-financed spending. As I caught my flight back across the Atlantic after several days in Dublin, I felt newly optimistic about the world's capacity for course correction. The problems plaguing stagnant, hidebound nations are certainly daunting. But if Ireland could remake itself so dramatically, perhaps there's still hope for other struggling fiscal spheres to follow the Celtic path, rejecting a future of insolvency, bloat, and national decline in favor of renewal, investment, and sustainable wealth creation. In today's world of easy money and institutional complacency, the Irish example is a radiant counterpoint, a proof point that even the most dire circumstances can be reversed through sound policymaking and societal commitment. The road ahead won't be easy, but the Emerald Isle has shown it can be done. Economic renaissance and fiscal redemption beckon for any having the fortitude to follow.